Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good Shabbos. Our Torah portion for this Shabbat is quite significant because it contains the Ten Commandments, the highest moral and ethical code known to humankind. Of course, in Judaism, we not only have 10 commandments, the 10 are a subset of 613 positive and negative commandments. It's interesting that many people have heard of the Ten Commandments, but a lot of people out there could not name all 10. In fact, there was a piece with Jay Leno several years ago where he interviewed people on the street and asked them, "Do you know the Ten Commandments?" And people said, "Oh yes, I definitely." And he would say, "Can you name the Ten Commandments?" And they had difficulty actually naming one or even two. One person said, "I think in there is freedom of speech." But actually that's not one of the 10, obviously. The Ten Commandments begin with, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt." And that is very important because it tells us that God brought us out of Egypt, God saved us, God redeemed us, and now in return we enter into the covenant with God. And the first commandment then that follows is, "You shall have no other little gods before you," which is a reference to the Egyptian gods' idols that were worshipped before the Exodus. One could say, what is the most important commandment? And I would have to say it has been the commandment on Shabbat. In this case, in Exodus, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. In Deuteronomy, it will become observed. And what are we to remember? We are to remember that we were slaves in Egypt. We are to remember where we came from. And we are to remember that each Shabbat is a recreation of creation itself. As many of you know, we returned from our journey to Cuba, to Havana, and we went to a small community called Cienfuegos, where there is a synagogue. It's the second floor of Rebecca's home. She only has 3 rooms. The front room is the synagogue. There are 20 people now in Cienfuegos. There are 5 families. There are 5 kids, 5 boys and a girl. And yet they keep Shabbat. They have a Shabbat dinner. They celebrate Shabbat. David, who is 26 years old, leads the service. He's been to Israel, Birthright, and March of the Living. And it is such an inspiration to see how this small group of Jews love their Judaism, keep it alive, celebrate Shabbat. So as we approach Shabbat, we should really hold it closely and dearly and celebrate and rejoice. As it says in our tradition, just as the Jewish people have kept Shabbat, so the Shabbat keeps us together as a community. So join us. This Friday night, we have first, second grade Shabbat dinner at 6:30, followed by a family service at 7:30, where we will honor our second graders, but it will also be a very beautiful musical service, and there's also an alternative service right here in our chapel, also at 7:30. So be with us and rejoice with Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.